You blew right past our exit. That's it. I'm going on ZocDoc and finding you an eye doctor.
Come on, babe. I don't need glasses.
How about Dr. Stafford? Patients say she's really quick at finding the right prescription.
Yeah, pass.
Dr. Taylor, this review says he helped me realize my situation isn't as serious as I thought, and he's in network.
Okay, fine. Book it. Whoa! Why is there a tiny volcano in the road?
Honey, that's a traffic cone.
Right.
You've got options. Download the ZocDoc app today.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car is gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. Welcome in on a Friday morning. We have so many things to get to. Had a chance to talk with Austin Ainge yesterday when I filled in the afternoon with Ben Anderson. We got to talk about the Jazz and the draft. Got to talk NBA Finals. Got to talk Stanley Cup Final. My gosh, what a wild game. I mean, it's just progressing along. Vegas seems in control. Carolina can't get much going. Vegas gets a couple of goals and is up not just 2-0 after 2, which they were, but it was still 2-0 midway through the third. Now, Carolina was starting to show signs of life. They're starting to put some pressure on, playing with some desperation, starting to create some opportunities. But it was still a 2-goal deficit midway through the third period, man. They needed something to happen. Brett Howden's goals were standing up. And sure enough, win the puck behind the net, spin around, jam it off the keeper and in, whatever you got to do. Was it a pretty goal? No, but they just needed a goal. And once they got it, the floodgates open. They scored 3 times in 5 minutes. I guess technically 5 minutes and 5 seconds. And they took the lead. And then Vegas pulls... Well, it gets more complicated than this, but Vegas pulls their goaltender and scores with less than a minute and a half to go, sends it to overtime, where Carolina wins on a power play. Now, that sounds pretty wild, but it was crazier than that. It's 2-2 with 5 minutes to go, and Vegas scores. And Vegas is celebrating, and they got the go-ahead goal. They're up 3-2. There's 5 minutes to go. They're so close to a 2-0 lead in the series with a pair of road wins, going home with a chance to sweep. I mean, it's just incredible. And I got to say, as a ref, waving it off in that minute, but they go to the replay, and it looks like he got it right live in real time. The puck doesn't come loose. It's under the goaltender, and they shove the goaltender into the goal, and they're jamming sticks underneath him trying to pop it out. They hit his glove as he's trying to grab it. And the combination of hitting the glove and the combination of the call on the ice, they weren't going to reverse it. But the cool thing is, and this is where, but football fans and basketball fans, maybe baseball fans too, but definitely football fans and basketball fans say there's too many replays. It's too gratuitous. It goes on for too long. Well, the too long thing, that's a tough one to help. Once you're asking referees or retired referees in the replay center to make the call, they're going to take however much time they want, no matter what they're told. That's my experience. But the risk in the NHL, so you don't have so many and they aren't too gratuitous, is, hey, you can go ahead and use a coach's challenge. But if you don't get the call, instead of losing a timeout, you take a 2-minute minor. You go down a man. You're going to give up a power play. I mean, you really got to believe. So Vegas must have believed. But the call doesn't get reversed, so they get a power play, and that is when Carolina scores the go-ahead goal. Now, Vegas did get a power play almost immediately after that, and Carolina killed it, at which point they pull the goalie and they score. I mean, it was just... the last 5 minutes were just a blur. There was so much going on. 2 goals, 2 penalties, a review. That was wild. And that's why people say there's nothing better than the Stanley Cup final, right? There's nothing better than the Stanley Cup playoffs for starters and then the final. So now it's 1-1 going to Vegas. Now, is the NBA final going to be 1-1 tonight? Because we got game 2 tonight, and I have so many questions. There are so many storylines. One of the big ones, obviously, the Knicks are trying to win. Their best player is the smallest player. Can Brunson go for 30 again? He had a really good game. If he has a mediocre game, if he doesn't hit that late three, not only could they have lost if he had a 20-point game, they might have lost if he had a 25-point game. He misses that three. If the Spurs get that rebound and they're off and running, who knows what happens, right? Anything could have happened. But he hit it. So is Brunson going to be on again? Are they going to figure out a way to deal with him? Is Wembanyama going to be 6 of 21 again, or is he going to have a more effective game? It was a gutsy move by the Knicks, and it worked, so it's being celebrated, right? Cat's defense, his leadership, that was all great. But what if he picks up a couple early fouls tonight? Could have happened in game one, didn't. And maybe not. Maybe he can play a great game against Wembanyama and stay out of foul trouble again. But if he does pick up a couple tonight, losing him would be a big deal. Maybe it gets Wembanyama rolling earlier. There's so many questions. De'Aaron Fox, man, there's a history of role players coming up small. There's a history of role players coming up big. And there are plenty of players where it varies game to game. And Fox had a chance to get started. He had 3 threes in the first 4 or 5 minutes of game one. He didn't hit any of them, and 2 of them were very good looks. They're very good looks. If he hits 2 or 3 of those, he's off and running. Maybe it's a different game. You can go through so many variables in this game. I'll be intrigued. One thing, the Knicks won, but they could do things better. And I think one thing with the Knicks, I'm curious, is do they try to put more pressure on Castle and see if they can get some turnovers and get out and run, especially early in the game? He was a disaster turning the ball over in game 1 and 2 in the Western Finals. Then games 3, 4, 5, 6, he was steady as a rock, really good. And in game 7, he was good for most of the game, and then right at the end, he had a flurry of them. He finished with 6, and that's just too many. But he had 2 deep into the fourth quarter. So you don't want to oversell it, but I do wonder, you need an easy hoop. Why not, right? See if you can surprise him. Maybe that's the best thing is you don't go at him all night long. You just go him in certain situations when you need a hoop. You trap him. You see if you can force something. Don't let him see the same thing all the time and get prepared. But when you really need something, give him a different look. See if you can pop that ball out. So there's a lot of things to obsess about. There's a lot of things that could go differently tonight in game 2. And, the Knicks won and Brunson had a big game, but it looked like he hurt his knee in the first quarter. He got stepped on in the second quarter. Injuries were such a big deal in that Western Conference final. Really hurt the Spurs early in the series. Really hurt the Thunder late in the series. We'll see if everybody's healthy here, how this goes. Obviously Mitchell's been limited. But also he's a role player, and his role's even smaller when Cat's having an awesome game. So we'll see where this goes. I'm very intrigued. Ready for game 2 tonight. The big baseball news, fairly big story. Aaron Judge has a stress fracture in a rib. That's why he's got pain near his shoulder. Stress fractures happen. I usually think that's something you see in the foot or maybe the ankle. But in the rib, a stress fracture? You're kidding me. But nonetheless, it's there. They got the x-rays. They're not dreaming it up. It's a real thing. So Aaron Judge is out 4 to 6 weeks, which, they're doing pretty well. They're only a half game behind the Rays right now. So they're certainly in a pretty good spot here in June. And so he'll come back 4 to 6 weeks, either right before or right after the All-Star break. So we'll see how that plays out for the Yankees. But a fairly big story for one of the game's big stars right there. All right, we got questions up on our Facebook page, DJ and PK. You can go there and answer. We'll get to these later. How did Jalen Brunson last until the second round? He's undersized. He's not super athletic. That Villanova team was absolutely loaded. They had 5 guys drafted. 4 of them in the draft Brunson was in, and then 1 the next year. But all 5 were on the team when they won it his 3rd year. And that's another thing. He's an older player. He played 3 years, so that's probably going to ding you. And he goes early second round to Dallas. And they'd just gotten Luka Doncic in the first round. And as Kyle Collinsworth was pointing out on Twitter last night, X, hey, Dallas, that's 2 pretty good draft picks. Kind of crazy that neither guy is with the team now. One's in L.A. and one's in New York. How? What? But they got Cooper Flagg to fill in. Something about Texas teams in the draft, huh? The Spurs and the Mavericks. Who's done better? All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, more on the NBA Finals. Andy Bailey, conversation with him after Game 1. That's next. Stay with us.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating Melon Serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope, she bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on
Carvana.
Delivery fees may apply.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Andy Bailey joined PK and I yesterday to talk, so maybe some of the time references will be off, but you get the idea as he talks about Game 1 and what he expects going forward. We also spend a lot of time with him on the NBA draft. Here's Andy Bailey with PK and I. Andy, good morning. Game 1 of the NBA Finals in the book. We can't wait to find out what you thought of that game and what you think about this series going forward.
I thought it was a blast, honestly, and thanks for having me, guys. Before we jump into that, I just think it's cool that you guys are doing that fundraiser, too. It's a different hospital, but I had 3 sons who spent time in children's hospitals, and those are pretty amazing places. So, to the finals, I thought it was a great game. I thought it was refreshing to not have to worry about flopping as much as I did last series, and part of that is my fault. I just can't I can't get off that topic. It drives me nuts, but it was nice to not really deal with it. I thought both teams played with a ton of effort and energy, and for a little bit there, and I even tweeted about it, and looked, I was one of the fools who looked kind of dumb in hindsight, but when San Antonio went up 13 or 14 or whatever it was, I said something like, well, it's kind of hard to see New York's path in this series, even though I picked the Knicks before it started. They just looked – they were kind of overwhelming in the same way they were to the Thunder. They're just big, athletic, and just constant effort. But finally, I think really for the first time all postseason, the experience thing maybe caught up to the Spurs in the fourth quarter, and you could see that the Knicks had been through a lot more battles like this, and specifically Jalen Brunson. And so ultimately, I think the game played out kind of the way I thought it would before the series started. I thought the Knicks would have that edge experience-wise. I certainly wavered from that take in the third quarter, but their just experience and competitiveness proved to be the trump card in that one.
Yeah, I think that when you go with the experience, and we were talking about this, you see them, they're down by those double digits. You still have a quarter and a half to go, roughly. So you're not really seeing a whole lot of panic. I mean, my gosh, just look what they did against Cleveland in the fourth quarter. And you talk about the inexperience of the Spurs, and we were talking about this earlier, that I thought watching the Spurs celebrate with that little flurry at the end of the first half, thinking, guys, what are you doing? You hit a few shots. I mean, they were racing out to half court as if it was one of these, some of these other leagues where you got points if you won a quarter. Like you actually won something. You're going into halftime with half the game to go, obviously, and you're up 7. And I just thought they were expending too much emotion, acting like it was a big deal, where next year, whenever it is, whether it's this series or, we expect them to be in this position for several years to come, I think you're going to see them walk off the floor and not act like such a big deal, like you accomplished something. All you had was a 7-point lead. Whoop-de, good for you, but it's not anything to go be all joyous about. And I thought that was their inexperience, where the Knicks, even though they're losing at that point, they're unfazed.
Yeah, a couple things on that. First of all, I kind of appreciate that the Spurs aren't afraid to show how much this means to them, and specifically Wemby. But I also think that it was pretty illuminating to watch some of the side-by-side comparisons of the way they celebrated the conference finals win and the way the Knicks celebrated it. And the Spurs kind of celebrated it like they'd already won it all, and the Knicks kind of just walked off the court because they knew there was more to come.
Right.
And what you just described was kind of a microcosm of that. The Knicks, the Spurs looked a little too giddy at the end of the first half, and the Knicks, by the same token, did not look rattled to be on the other end of that. And then the other thing is, specifically with the Knicks, getting out in front of your skis a little bit is more dangerous against them than it is against other teams. And I can't remember who posted it, and I can't remember the exact time frame, but I think it was the Jalen Brunson era of Knicks basketball. There's something like, I think it said 6-6 when they're down 14 in the second half of playoff games. And in the same stretch, every other team in the NBA is 10-100 in that same scenario when you get down 14 in the second half. So there's just something about Brunson and this entire team that they're just not rattled by big deficits in the second half. He's a huge part of that. I think his supporting cast is awesome at supporting him. But yeah, you cannot get ahead of yourself with this Knicks team. This run that they're on is crazy at this point. And a big part of it is they just they stay in the pocket, they stay settled down, and eventually they start landing some of those blows and kind of pulled away by the end of this game. It was another double-digit victory. And I was just looking at the box score before we got on. The Spurs only won one quarter in that game. And really, the Knicks jumped out to a quick lead, so you could say the Spurs won like an 8-minute stretch in the first quarter. And then obviously they had the good stretch in the third too. But the Knicks, in a lot of ways, controlled the game and certainly controlled the end of it. And I think they're in pretty good shape now.
See, it's funny. I didn't think the Knicks controlled the game offensively. I thought they controlled it defensively.
Right.
Harper got hot in the first quarter. That's why they won the first quarter. Champagne got hot in the second quarter. That's why San Antonio, after giving away the lead, had the halftime lead because he hit 5 3-pointers. That's who was dancing around, the PK was referring to, and I'm right with you guys on that. That was way too much celebration, 7-point game in the second quarter. So what? Nobody really got going for him in the second half, but they did have a 9-0 run and take the lead at 95-94. I don't think the Knicks were in control in that moment. It felt like it was slipping away. That's why the game was so epic. There was so much back and forth. I think you said like 10 things I want to react to, Andy. That was such a great. So, first off, I think flopping's always a big deal. I think people make a bigger deal in Oklahoma City because there's generally a feel in the league that Seattle should have never lost the team. Oklahoma City shouldn't have the team. They shouldn't have all these good teams. And big markets hate it when little markets win. And there's way too many New York honks in the national media who are getting all weepy because it's their team, and they're whining. And there's also an L.A. honk in the media who's whining about him all the time also. And I think Brunson flops. He was complaining for fouls. He was, in the words of Brian Dunseth, who I called soccer games with, he was pulling up the landing gear and falling down, which I've heard Steph Curry does it too, but people say Steph does it so he doesn't turn an ankle. It's easier to fall down, but it does leave the team 5-on-4 going the other way defending, which can be a problem if the other team's savvy enough to take advantage of it. I thought that Karl Anthony Towns getting in the huddle and telling guys, hey, the offense comes and goes, and it'll be like Cleveland. We'll figure it out, but we have to keep defending. San Antonio only got 95 points. Now, some of that's missing open shots. Fox missed at least 2, maybe 3 good looks at 3 early. He was 0 for 3 early from 3. Maybe one of them wasn't a great look, but 2 of them were. But I thought they took away layups and dunks, and they made Wemby make free throws, and they fouled guys on breakaways so the crowd can't erupt. Even if you get the points at the free throw line, the momentum's not the same. I thought it was a really savvy performance by the Knicks. Part of their savviness is good fortune. They didn't celebrate leaving the floor in Cleveland because it was 4-0, and Cleveland was a broken team in Game 2. The Knicks knew they were going to win this series for a long time, whereas the Spurs took down the champs by winning 6-7 and winning a pretty wild game on the road. So I get it, but it does play into their immaturity. They were played a tougher hand, and it did play into their maturity.
Yeah, I think, speaking of making a lot of good points in one go, you just did that as well. I think you make some maybe New York didn't ever have great control of the game, and the way you broke down the runs was good. But I would say that they never lost control either.
That's true.
And it was, I think it was because of their defense, which you also mentioned. And you brought up Cat, and Brunson's going to get most of the attention, and Josh Hart has understandably gotten a lot of attention. I love the way he plays. I love how hard he plays without, he checks so many boxes without scoring. But the guy who may have had the biggest impact was Karl Anthony Towns, and it was on the defensive end. I wrote about what he did after the game, and I watched every single shot that Wemby took when Towns was his primary defender, and he was 2 of 12 in that scenario, and he made his first shot on Towns the very start of the game, so he was 1 of 11 after that. And every shot was tightly contested. He stuck with him on whatever moves Wemby was trying to pull. The one that he did make late was, I won't say it was lucky, but it was an and one, and he just kind of flipped it up and it went in. His defense was fantastic, and it was a big part of the Knicks not losing control of that game. I think you can point to stuff that a bunch of different guys did. Bridges didn't have a big box score game, but he was good defensively. Anunoby hit some massive shots late. Shamet has suddenly become this invaluable bench player, seemingly every time he's out there. But specifically last night, I think Cat was the biggest performer. And I think this whole postseason is really interesting for me because he's been kind of a punching bag in the playoffs over the years. And this postseason, he's been fantastic. He's been one of their best playmakers. His defense has been better. His fouls have been a little bit better. He's just been awesome. I think he's a huge part of this run for them.
I'm going to use a comparison of a Spurs player as it relates to the Jazz in the draft, and you'll see what I'm getting at here in a second. I think that in conversation, I think the Jazz are growing more comfortable with the thought of bringing on Darren Peterson onto their team if it comes to that. They still got 3 weeks to go, so things can happen. I'm not reporting that they are going to take Darren Peterson. I am saying that they're growing more comfortable with the idea of taking him. And as I watch the Spurs with the number 2 pick last year, Dylan Harper, and having him being a rookie and having a nice game in game 1, the future is very bright for this young man. But in my conversations, I was talking with someone, and I think what I've been able to watch of Darren Peterson and Harper, and we talked about it, we knew the Jazz obviously were going to be in the lottery a year ago, so we ended up DJ and myself end up watching Rutgers. I watched more Rutgers basketball last year than I'm going to watch in my entire life, because I knew obviously they had 2 players, and they ended up getting one of them, clearly in Ace Bailey. And so with that in mind, we're watching. I have a Wooden Award vote also, so I pay attention to the top guys. And BYU and Utah are in the same league. So I ended up watching Peterson. And plus you can see them now on these other competitions even before they get to college. So my statement, a long way of saying, I think that Darren Peterson can be better than what Dylan Harper is right now. Get your evaluation of that assessment.
I don't think that's too crazy. First of all, Dylan Harper has been unbelievable in the playoffs.
Right.
And this is kind of a backtrack at this point, but we talked about inexperience, and I think one of the guys who really showed inexperience last night might have been Mitch Johnson, the Spurs coach, because to not close with Harper was almost inexplicable to me. So now that I say that, it is kind of a high bar to think that Darren Peterson, by the time the next postseason rolls around, could be as unflappable as Harper has been in this postseason, or at least it seems like a high bar. But I think he might have that same sort of approach to big moments. Now, he was knocked out of a lot of them in this college season, and I think there's a lot of fair questions about why and if that stuff will continue to the NBA level. But as you said, I think as teams do their homework on him, if they feel comfortable thinking that they can get through the health things or the mental barriers, whatever it was that knocked him out of some of those games, he has had a lot of moments in his very young basketball career where he rises to the challenge and looks like the best player on the floor against very good competition. It's not easy to be a rookie guard in the NBA and look like a veteran through a run to the finals. And the chances of Utah going on a deep playoff run are pretty slim, obviously. But your overarching point that he can be a very good guard right off the bat. I don't think that's crazy at all. I think he has a chance to be very impactful right off the bat, and that's going to help. It's not really revelatory at this point. Like, it's almost becoming trendy to say that the Jazz are going to be pretty good next year, and I think Peterson would absolutely help with that. The thing about being number 2 in this particular draft, I think Utah's going to be pretty good regardless of who they take there, and I think regardless of who it is, he's going to make an impact on that.
Right. Yeah.
So PK always says we got to talk about the NBA playoffs through the eyes of what does this tell us about the Jazz? And now he does it with the Stanley Cup playoffs. What does it tell us about the Mammoth? So with that in mind, watching Wemby, if he's in the paint, offensively or defensively, your odds of winning and beating the Spurs are terrible. It might happen, but they are not good odds. If you can move him to the perimeter, he still might beat you up pretty bad, but you at least have a fighting chance. You got to be physical with him, but you have to be mobile enough that you can be physical with him 25 feet from the hoop. And we saw in Oklahoma City, Hartenstein did a good job of battling, and Wemby had some bad games. Had some great games, but had some bad games. His best game, they didn't have Hartenstein on him in game 1. They tried to get cute and go with someone smaller, and they got beat up really bad, and they stopped doing that right away. So with that in mind, do the Jazz have to add a backup center who can play the way Nurkic did at the top of the key, whether it's Nurkic or somebody else? Do they have to have somebody who can go play beyond the three-point line and pull Wemby away from the hoop, because they need Kessler's shot blocking? In a lot of playoff series, he'll be the guy, but in a playoff series with San Antonio, and you may not even have that series, but if you do, you better have somebody else, because he's not the right matchup based on the way what we saw Karl Anthony Towns do in game 1 and what we saw Hartenstein do in the Western Conference Finals. What do you think?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's ever a bad idea to have depth all over the roster, including in the front court. What I would say about Utah, where they're maybe sort of ahead of the curve, they have multiple guys who can play that center position, and they have multiple guys who can play it in different ways. And if you have Triple J at the 5, you need everybody else on the floor to rebound, because he's a pretty bad rebounder. But I think he checks that box that you just brought up about being able to chase Wemby on the outside, and I actually think he might be better at that than just about anybody in the league. He's a very mobile defender on the perimeter, and I think maybe even Markkanen could chase him around a little bit on the outside. And then at the same time, you have the ability to go with the more traditional interior center like Kessler. I think there's already a lot of versatility in that Jazz front court, and we, 10 years ago now, maybe a little bit more, there was a lot of talk about the depth of the center position, and that turned out to be pretty short-lived, because I think size and athleticism are super important now, and the Jazz, again, I think they're ahead of the curve. I think they have size and athleticism. If they add Devonta or Peterson to this group, they can play some huge lineups that don't really give up a ton of mobility. And even if you're worried about, okay, Markkanen's going to have to play the 3, and he's probably going to be beat off the dribble by some guys at that position, you have 2 absolute erasers waiting on the back line in Kessler and Triple J, either together, or, you could stagger those 2 pretty significantly. And I think there's already a lot of lineup or potential lineup versatility with this team, and they could be one of the better Wemby and Spurs matchups over the next few years. It seems kind of funny to say that about a team that's been so bad wins and losses wise over the last few years, but I think they're going to be able to flip the switch pretty quickly at this point.
Andy, I'm known for off-the-wall questions, and you got Wyoming in your background. I've always felt that if they would have put the state's flagship university in Wyoming in Jackson instead of Laramie, they would be a national power.
Oh, well, I was just in Jackson a week ago, maybe. Mm-hmm. That really is an unbelievable part of the country, and Laramie's beautiful too. But you get some kid from California or Texas or another warm climate, and they come and visit Laramie in the winter. That's going to be a turnoff for a lot of guys. It's pretty cold.
I go up to Jackson every year. I'll be up there in a couple of weeks, and boy, And I go in the summer, obviously, although I've been a couple times in the winter, and it is spectacular.
Yeah. I usually drive up from the south because I'm in Cheyenne, but I was there for work with my brother, and he said, you need to take the northern route home where you drive in front of the Tetons for a few miles. And I hadn't done that in forever, and it is spectacular. It's just a beautiful drive.
Can you imagine what the state legislature in Wyoming would have to pay faculty and staff to live in Jackson Hole, and what they get to pay them because
they live in Driggs, Idaho.
Everybody lives in Driggs and drives over the mountain.
Yeah. We'd have a bunch of legislators coming from out of state.
Yeah. Andy, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy the finals, and we will talk to you again before the draft, I'm sure.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, there's Andy Bailey. When we come back, Shehan Jeyarajah joins us next from CBS Sports. Love having him on to talk college football. We'll get his thoughts on the Big 12 and his surprise team next.
You blew right past our exit. That's it. I'm going on ZocDoc and finding you an eye doctor.
Come on, babe. I don't need glasses.
How about Dr. Stafford? Patients say she's really quick at finding the right prescription.
Yeah, pass.
Dr. Taylor? This review says he helped me realize my situation isn't as serious as I thought, and he's in network.
Okay, fine. Book it. Whoa! Why is there a tiny volcano in the road?
Honey, that's a traffic cone.
Right.
You've got options. Download the ZocDoc app today.
Now I'd like to introduce you to Meaningful Beauty, the famed skincare brand created by iconic supermodel Cindy Crawford. It's her secret to absolutely gorgeous skin. Meaningful Beauty makes powerful and effective skincare simple, and it's loved by millions of women. It's formulated for all ages and all skin tones and types, and it's designed to work as a complete skincare system, leaving your skin feeling soft, smooth, and nourished. I recommend starting with Cindy's full regimen, which contains all 5 of her best-selling products, including the amazing youth-activating melon serum. This next-generation serum has the power of melon leaf stem cell technology. It's melon leaf stem cells encapsulated for freshness and released onto the skin to support a visible reduction in the appearance of wrinkles. With thousands of glowing 5-star reviews, why not give it a try? Subscribe today and you can get the amazing Meaningful Beauty system for just $49.95. That includes our introductory 5-piece system, free gifts, free shipping, and a 60-day money-back guarantee. All of that available at meaningfulbeauty.com.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Time to talk college football now with CBS Sports national college football writer, Shehan Jeyarajah. Shehan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I am curious, as you look at the Big 12, we've been doing a spring football tour. We've been talking to people who cover the different teams, and you probably read what a lot of people are writing out there, both nationally or locally or regionally. Anybody that people are way too high on? Anybody that people way too low on? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. I think that there's a clear, for me at least, top 2 in Texas Tech and BYU in whatever order that you want. But really, I mean, after that, like, it is a total crapshoot, right? For me, when I look at the Vegas odds, for example, I mean, Kansas State is ranked up there as the number 4 or number 5 team in Big 12 title odds. And while I think that they have a chance to be pretty good under first-year coach Colin Klein, that's a lot of expectation for a team that replaces a whole lot on the defensive side of the ball and at wide receiver. So that's a team that I probably would consider myself a little bit lower on than what the consensus seems to be. You know, Oklahoma State on the other side of things, right? I mean, they're obviously a team that went 1-11 last year, but they imported the entire offense from North Texas. They did a really good job of identifying trench talent in the transfer portal. This is a team that I absolutely could see pushing into the 8 or 9 win range. And if some things break right for them, maybe crashing the Big 12 title game.
Just go generally. You've already mentioned 3 teams there with the ones you just mentioned, obviously, with the BYU and Texas Tech leading. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. But who do you think has an opportunity to get to go at least minimally 6-3 in a conference? Because if you go 6-3, more than likely it's not like you're going to go into November and win 4 games. So you're not going to be basically where I'm getting at was when you get into the first week of November, you probably are in contention if you end up 6-3. Even if you in 6-3 probably wouldn't get you to the title game. We understand that. But my thought being, if you have an opportunity to get to 6 wins in November, you probably have maybe an opportunity to get to 7 or 8, which could put you in contention. So just use 6-3 as a baseline. The teams that you think can go minimally 6-3.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Oklahoma State, like I mentioned, if some things break right for them, could be in that conversation. I think that a very undervalued team right now, too, is TCU. TCU, of course, loses their quarterback, Josh Hoover, to Indiana, but they felt like they did a really good job of replacing him, bringing in Harvard transfer Jaden Craig. Jaden Craig is somebody who's been on NFL radars before. He does a great job. One thing that the staff will point to, too, is that he takes good care of the ball, which has been an issue the past couple of years at TCU. And they hope that the addition of offensive coordinator Gordon Samus can help revitalize a running game that really has been one of the most fundamental issues for TCU these past couple of years. So they're a team I think can certainly get into 6-3 range. I think that Utah, with the way that their schedule lines up, it's a pretty realistic possibility that they could be in the 6-3, 7-2 range as well. Now, of course, they replace a lot from their 2025 team, especially along the offensive line. And it's a new first-year head coach in Morgan Scalley. But I think that that's a team that certainly has the ability to be at 6-3. And look, I mean, there are multiple other teams that I think have a chance to crash the conversation. Arizona certainly is one that I think, that they finished with 9 wins last year. Houston, outside of the top 2, might be the team that most people are highest on in the Big 12. And I've heard talking to people that the addition of running back Mekhi Hughes is something that people are really undervaluing. This is a player who rushed for more than 1,400 yards in his first 2 seasons before kind of falling out of the rotation at Oregon. They feel like he is back and ready to go at Houston. So that's a team that, again, not only can they get to 6-3, I think that they can absolutely push 10 wins in a Big 12 title game appearance.
There were 6 teams that made it to 6-3 last year. Houston was one of them. Of the other 5, they only played 2 of them, Texas Tech and Utah. They miss out on all the other schools. And Texas Tech they might get without an established quarterback. I mean, we thought Tech had 2, but if Sorsby's suspended, which I think he will be, and if Hammond isn't healthy, it seems like he might be his first game back, so maybe he'll be there. I mean, in these big leagues, sometimes teams catch a break. Like Houston, you're catching a break here. Can you cash in on it?
No, absolutely. And schedule with these 16-team conferences, like you mentioned, is kind of everything. And in fact, for example, even without Brendan Sorsby in the lineup, it's why I still have Texas Tech pretty easily making it back to the Big 12 title game. They don't play either of the Utah schools this year. So I think that again, with Houston, like you mentioned, that's a prime opportunity for them to steal a game in week 3. It's also, by the way, a Friday game. It's also a game that, by the way, Texas Tech actually kind of complained about it being so early because they play Oregon State very late in week 2 and have to travel back. So it's kind of a short week for them, whereas Houston gets a pretty good tune-up opportunity. Will Hammond should probably be back for that game, but there's a pretty good chance that it's his first start at Texas Tech as the full-time starter. So a lot, I think, lines up well for Houston in that spot. And look, their schedule this year, Houston's, is more difficult than it was in 2025. They managed to get to 10 wins last year. And look, I think that they were probably a little bit less than a 10-win quality team. This year, I think that with the additions that they've made, with the experience that they bring back, second-year starting quarterback, second-year defensive coordinator, really good offensive line, like this is a year where they're going to have a team that's of the quality of pushing for 10 or 11 wins.
See, now I thought that if Cody Campbell and McGuire were really serious about Texas, they should say, okay, here's the deal. We're so good. We'll play Houston on that Friday, and then Saturday we'll go to Austin and play you there.
Well, listen. I think that this is a prime opportunity for Texas Tech to put itself back in the headlines, right? With everything that's gone on with their conversations with the University of Texas. And look, as somebody down here in the state, people are talking about it. Texas fans obviously are not happy with the way the narrative is kind of headed. And of course, Joey McGuire challenging them to reschedule their games in week 1. And they're trying to find sort of technicalities like, oh, well, you wouldn't come down to Austin. You wouldn't cancel this or that game. You wouldn't buy out Ohio State, whatever else. I think it's been great offseason content. But yes, I don't think that they're going to play in consecutive days.
That kind of reminds me, though, knowing that Texas isn't going to do it, the guy who charges the mound, but he does it really slow so a bunch of his teammates can get in the way, or, in basketball, hold me back, when I really want no part of the guy who I want them to hold me back. Now, I know Texas Tech wants a part of it, but the point I'm making is they're saying these outlandish things knowing that it's probably not going to happen anyway, so that makes them look good, and it sort of makes Texas look bad.
No, I mean, I had a friend who went to Texas who texted me and was like, this is so clearly just a PR stunt. And I'm like, heck yeah, it is. Like, right. It is working. It's getting everybody talking. It's showing Texas Tech is a program that wants to not be scared and wants to play, and they're calling Texas scared. And by the way, yes, for one, I mean, I think Texas would beat them this year. Let's be clear about that, right? Especially without Brendan Sorsby in the lineup. I think Texas has a better team. I think Texas has a really good case to be number 1 in the country heading into the year. But it's not really about that, right? It's more about saying, we're going to stand up. We're going to fight for ourselves. We're happy to be in your head. And again, I think that Joey McGuire, even like everybody has paid attention in these last 2 years with Texas Tech, obviously elevating themselves to a national power. But he has been loud, he's been vocal, he has fought for Texas Tech since he got there in fall of 2021. I give him a lot of credit. I think that he understood something about the Texas Tech fan base that I don't even think that they understood themselves.
You mentioned Oklahoma State turning things around. The rest of the bottom of the league, should Utah and BYU and whoever else be looking at Baylor and Kansas coming off 3-win seasons, Central Florida and West Virginia coming off 2-win seasons, Colorado a 1-win season? Should they just look at them as easy targets, and this is where you pick up the doubles and make sure you're bowl eligible and get yourself in the hunt? Or can any of those teams turn it around?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, look, there are going to be a few teams that I think will be at the bottom of the conference. I'm not very high on Colorado, to be frank. Iowa State just replaces so much, though I think that Jimmy Rogers is a really good coach. I think, maybe by the end of the year, they could have some stuff figured out. But almost anybody else in the conference has a pathway to some interesting stuff, right? You mentioned Baylor coming in, DJ Lagway, the former number 3 overall recruit in the class of 2024. They're really excited about what he's brought. And they also, by the way, bring in Joel Klanderman at defensive coordinator, who did a great job at Kansas State over the course of multiple years. So Baylor's a team that absolutely could pop up. Cincinnati, obviously, they lose Brendan Sorsby to Texas Tech, and obviously now to suspension, but they have one of the best offensive lines in the Big 12 that nobody's talking about. They have multiple players who have a chance to be all Big 12 or even maybe all America selection. So don't be surprised if they also overperform. I mean, when you look at the Big 12 right now, this is a league that top to bottom is just so tough. I mean, the gap between let's call it the 5th best team and the 13th best team is smaller than just about any conference in college athletics. So, look, I think BYU especially, they should maybe be half a step ahead of the field. Utah, maybe, a quarter of a step ahead of the field. But any given week, any given time, these are teams that absolutely have the ability to jump up and bite at your ankles.
How do you think Nick Saban's message in the hearing was received?
It's interesting, right? I was having some conversation with sources the past couple of days, and one thing that kind of keeps coming up is man, Nick Saban brings so much credibility. That's the reason that he's involved in all these conversations. But this is a coach who really has hardly even coached in the NIL era and doesn't even necessarily know what's going on in modern college football. I think that, certainly, again, every senator, every staff member is thrilled to get to take their photo with Nick Saban after the hearings. But you look at the people who are talking at these hearings, and no shade to them, but like they aren't really the people who are all that invested or maybe even able to fix a lot of what's wrong with college athletics. I mean, I know there was a representative player from the University of Utah, but like it's just a different type of deal to have, a really good player come and speak on behalf of student athletes compared to like Arch Manning going and speaking on behalf of athletes, or some of like, the people who are most impacted by these dynamics, Trinidad Chambliss, for example. Like, that's what I think makes it very difficult whenever you hear these hearings as somebody who covers college athletics, is that you're just not really talking at this point to the primary stakeholders. The primary stakeholders at this point are the big-time coaches, our general managers, our big-time players who are commanding a lot of money, especially in the transfer portal. And also, I think that you have to start looking at collectives. I think you have to start looking at these multimedia rights partners that have done a huge amount to try to build contracts and help programs pay out more money to their athletes through NIL deals. Like, these are the people who actually run college football right now, and none of those people at this point are on the stands.
If they do something that really flattens the odds, makes things more competitive, which is what baseball's talking about, pro sport, not college, I think that's going to irritate the schools that have had all sorts of financial and institutional advantages for decades, if not a century. But if they don't do that, it's going to irritate a lot of schools that incorrectly or correctly view themselves as up-and-comers. I don't see how they're going to please everybody. Somebody's going to scream foul. People are always trying to get around the rules. That's the only constant in college sports for the last 100 years. I realize people think that there could be some answer out there and the federal government could give it. I think they're moving the bag back. There's just going to be whatever they decide, there's going to be a beef about that after they decide it, and I wonder how much is going to be set in stone if they decide something.
Well, I think that you only have to look as far as look at who has come out against this new bill. And it's the Big Ten and the SEC, right? So like you said, there's kind of two visions for college football right now and college athletics. One is one that ends up being more egalitarian, that tries to even the field a little bit, to make the sport more competitive top to bottom. And the other side of it is one that empowers the people who make the most money. Right now, we're in that latter era. And look, I mean, the SEC and Big Ten, especially SEC schools, by the way, are trying to make the case like, no, we want to fix this system. We want to make things, not as disparate. We want to end the arms race, all this sort of stuff. But like the irony of it, right, is that especially let's for a second take a look at SEC schools outside of Texas and Texas A&M, right? A lot of them financially can't compete with Big Ten schools. Because you look across the Deep South, there isn't necessarily that level of money that you find in Chicago, in Milwaukee, in Madison, in these big metros, right? Like the South is a local group. The North is filled with big-time metros. And so the SEC, especially those middle-tier schools, are trying to crack this balance of let's try to pull down the Big Ten schools, but let's not ruin our advantage that we have against everybody else. So like you said, we're running into these existential issues where we talk about the idea of you're ultimately going to screw over somebody in the process, and everybody is trying to avoid it being them.
Utah has been in the news with this private equity thing, and then the thing came out, the Tribune had, and others picked it up on the possibility of layoffs coming up at the end of the month, and the folks will have to reapply for their jobs and reduction in force and all that. And it's been out there nationally now. What do you think the national perception of it is?
Well, I think the short of it is, like, this is what people were concerned about when Utah entered into a private equity agreement, right? Is that private equity's job is to lower costs as much as possible and maximize profit as much as possible. And there's a lot of stuff that exists in college athletic departments that isn't just supposed to exist for the reason of making as much money as possible, right? I mean, even if you want to get into the idea of non-revenue sports, right? Like, they've historically existed as a way to maximize student opportunity and do sort of more of a social good than necessarily just make as much money as possible. And so this is kind of that first step with the reduction of force stuff. Again, what we'll kind of be curious to see what ultimately gets cut, what staffers get cut. and this isn't unique, right? So whenever Trev Alberts took over at Texas A&M, he did a massive reduction of force. He said that the athletic department was too bloated. That wasn't pushed by an outside group. That was pushed by a new athletic director coming in. But again, this is sort of the thing that everybody worries about and warns about, is that private equity is not going to be precious with a lot of what you already have there. And you just have to understand that you're letting that in when you make those partnerships.
To me, the question here in the short run is, are they going to eliminate 20 jobs in the athletic department but create 20 jobs over in this new entity, or are they going to eliminate 25 jobs in the athletic department and create 10 over here in the new entity? And they're saying people will be allowed to reapply for essentially their new job in this new business. Good luck with that. I think a lot of people have been out there, looking for jobs, kind of roll their eyes at the thought that they somehow get hired over there. Maybe one or two people will, but doesn't seem likely.
No, it's a challenge, and it's something that, again, if you are an existing staff member of the Utah Athletic Department, like, you just don't necessarily know what that means for you, right? Because there's obviously, there's people who do sort of essential roles, right? But like, will a private equity independent organization care about keeping stats and records the same way that an athletic department might? We don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, we do. We do. We do know the answer to that question. That was rhetorical, what you did. We do know the answer to that question.
Well, and therein lies the challenge, right? There's going to be a lot of things that are normal college athletic stuff that we're going to have to figure out if they have any interest in trying to replicate, or if Utah is just going to kind of live in its own little world in that way.
Having worked for private equity 10 or 15 years ago, I can tell you from experience, the first thing they care about is getting their bonuses. So that doesn't mean making money. That means making gobs of money so they can get a bonus.
You owned a private equity company, didn't you?
I did not.
Oh.
I definitely did not.
That's right. You're your brother.
This is a program, part of the program where PK lies to entertain himself, Shehan, in case you didn't know. You usually get
Can I hold $1?
PK.
If you got a few more lying around, I'll happily take some.
Well, we'll be down there broadcasting in Plano or Frisco next month, so we'll throw you some cash.
Hey, we got Texans pronouncing it Plano and Plano. Which is it?
It's Plano. It's Plano. It's
Plano.
It's Plano.
Yeah, I know it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, got that sorted
But
out.
it's Frisco where we're going to be.
Frisco. John, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for coming in and talking a little Big 12 football. And it's about a month to media days now, so away we go.
Looking forward to seeing you guys. Thanks for having me.
There's Shehan Jeyarajah from CBS Sports. When we come back, what is trending? The headlines are next. Stay with us.
Ouch. This knee is killing me, but I can't stop training. The marathon is in 2 weeks.
Let's get on ZocDoc and find a doctor to take a look at that for you.
Okay.
Here's a review. Dr. Craddock really takes his time.
No, I don't have time.
What about Dr. Charles? His patients say he can help find a quick fix, and he's in network.
Great, now we're talking. Book it.
Booked. 1 mile down, 19 to go.
Bring it on.
You've got options. Download the ZocDoc app today. I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.